What do you feel like society is underestimating about what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't know if they are. This sounds so kind of egotistical, but it's not intended to be. Like when I decided to do this, right, and then I quit my job at the end of the year. I took a holiday with the kids, and I came back and I started the company in January. I had to kind of hype myself up to be ready and able to handle 6 months of rejection. That was my plan. I was like, all right, I'm going to have 6 months where people are going to tell me I'm an insane person. Doors are going to get slammed in my face. People won't respond to emails. And I was like, Philip, you got to be okay with it. If you can't handle that level of rejection, you shouldn't do it and keep your job. And then it didn't happen. Right. I've basically had no doors slammed in my face. Everyone's been very supportive, other than the occasional partner who's like, hey, we love what you're doing, but like, we're not for us right now. We're focused on defense world. Like, cool. So I don't know if people are necessarily actively underestimating, but I think to take this in like the more optimistic perspective, what I think people miss is the scale. And I think that's partially intentional, right? So I don't focus on the future all that much in most of my conversations with investors or partners. It's very much around what the near term execution path looks like. It's the go-to-market strategy. It's like, what are the next 2 to 3 years? What do I need to do? How do I make this realistic? How do I show that we're ready to go produce race operations and distribute content, right? It's the bread and butter. It's like the stuff we have to be good at to prove that we're real. So I don't usually focus on the, hey, what can this be? But what this can be is actually what people underestimate, because sports is a big business, a phenomenally large business. I mean, just look at the valuations for sports teams, the entire sports asset class for, league ownership, team ownership, rights, it's amazing, right? I mean, $100 million deals don't even get in the news, right? Like minimum deal size to make the news is like $1 billion. That's wild, right? So I think people don't realize the TAM that I'm going after. The TAM here is everyone on the planet with a smartphone, right? So 6 billion-ish people is my target market. And I'm going into a market where that market represents hundreds of billions of dollars a year and soon to be trillions, right? And that's like sports broadly, right? And that is a huge, huge, huge opportunity. And I think I'm so new, and this is such a different take, that I think people, especially people in the space industry, haven't really kind of clued into the fact that sports is a huge standalone business. And to the extent we can integrate it into the space ecosystem and create kind of a new vertical, my God, if I'm successful and this scales, even if we get 2 or 3% of the sports market, it's billions, like absolutely like phenomenal billions, right? And I think that's partially it. And I think the other part is this kind of, again, messianic idea of at the point where humans race in space, it's going to be the most watched sporting event in the history of sports. That's what people miss. And it's because I don't talk about it that much, because I feel like I sound like a crazy person when I say it. And like, I know that I'm right. I know that this is real, and I know we'll get there eventually. And I know I'm not an insane person. I'm not trying to do that next year, right? Like I'm not a crazy person, but that I think is what people miss. People underestimate that potential, where if we're in a position where humans are racing in space and it's the most watched sporting event in history, it's not 2 to 3% of the sports market. It's more. Right? If we can capture, if sports in space can eventually become 5%, 7% of the sports market, it's tens of billions of dollars every year.
Yep.
That is a scale that is basically unachievable in space companies by anyone other than SpaceX or Blue Origin or Boeing, right? That would make us one of the biggest properties in the space industry just from that 5% share. And I think, and that's one of those stories, again, that I'm not leaning into necessarily, because again, I think people, even though I can say it a million times, people I think will hear me talking about humans racing in space and think I'm a crackpot who's out there pitching humans racing in space today. I'm again, just to say it again, I'm not, right? I'm not an insane person. I'm very realistic about what technology can support, right? We could do racing in space today. It would just cost a few $1 billion and no one's going to go fund it. But I want to, again, be very realistic about today and very forward leaning about what tomorrow can hold, because that is what people underestimate.
The thing is, people always say you're crazy until it works anyway.